Hey, Marianne here, and welcome to the posture workout. This month we have a leg and hip alignment routine, and we're starting off today with standing elbow curls. I want you to come all the way back against the wall so that your heels are touching. Point your feet straight ahead. Bring your feet hip width distance apart, so that's a 1.5 fist width between your ankle joints. And curl your fingers into the pads of your palms. Place your big knuckle at your temple right behind your eyeball and point your thumbs down towards the floor. Bring your elbows together to touch in front of your chin and bring your elbows all the way back to meet the wall. Now, if you don't have this full range of motion today, that's okay. Focus on keeping your position and do what you can with the range of motion. The range of motion will improve itself over time. Now, a couple of finer points. Breathe, inhale as your elbows come apart, exhale as they come together. Relax your toes and keep your weight equally distributed through your feet. You're almost done here. Be sure to keep breathing and try to keep your elbows up as high as you can. Good job. Now we're going to get into a standing quad stretch. We have 1 minute on each leg. Find a surface that's high enough where you feel a stretch in the front of your thigh, but it shouldn't be so high that you have to twist or contort your body to get into the position. Now look straight ahead and breathe. So let's go over a few of the finer points here. The foot that you're standing on should be pointed straight ahead. Okay, the knee should be straight. And your body should be balanced, so you shouldn't be shifted all the way over to one side. If it helps you, you can put a chair in front of you. You can place your hands on the chair and use the chair to help keep your body balanced, but don't rely on it too much. Try to keep your body in an upright position with your shoulders relaxed. Now, here's something to keep in mind. It might be tempting to actually use your hand to just grab onto your leg behind you. Don't do that. That's a totally different stretch. You're going to defeat the purpose of this. That's going to use compensatory muscles if you do that. So just place your leg on a piece of furniture. A couch, the backside of a couch usually works well for most people. And look straight ahead. Again, keep your body balanced. Now you might feel unstable here, and if you do, that's okay. Keep in mind a big part of this exercise is actually strengthening and stabilizing the pelvis. The leg that you're standing on, we're asking those muscles to work while we stretch the opposite hip. And then, of course, we switch sides and we place equal demand on both sides of the body. And here's what this looks like from the front view. So the knee should be pointed straight down towards the floor, not out to the side. Breathe, and you should feel a stretch along the front side of your thigh. Now for assisted runner stretch, 1 minute on each side. Start in a kneeling position with your knee touching your heel with your feet and legs in a straight line. You can place your hands on a chair or a block like I'm showing you here. Basically, you need something high enough so that when you come up into this position, you can get your knees straight, and ultimately, you do want to get your back flat. So stay tuned for the end of this video where I'm going to show you in the things to remember how to do a modification here if you are tight. Once you get into position, tighten your thighs and double check to make sure that your feet are pointed straight ahead. Okay, your back heel should be all the way back down into the floor. Your hips should be level and your thighs should be tight. Now check the back foot one more time. The tendency once you place your heel all the way down to the floor is for that back foot to turn out. So double check the back foot. So we're switching sides here. Same position, feet pointed straight ahead, thighs tight, knees straight. Now once you're in position, place slightly more weight on the inner edges of your feet and work towards placing an arch in your low back. So when I say work towards, I said it that way on purpose because you might not have an arch in your low back today, but you should be working at it. So you should be rolling your hips forward to try to create that arch in the low back. So your priority here is not necessarily to get your hands all the way to the floor. The priority is the knee joints should be straight and the back should be straight. Good job. Almost done here. And now for cats and dogs, we have 10 reps. We're gonna synchronize the shoulders with the hips. Think of leading with your pelvis. Move your pelvis first and your head last. So the pelvis is the driver here. Now a couple of finer points, the knee joints and ankle joints should both be hip width apart. So when you get into this position, it helps often to actually measure the distance between your knees and your ankles before you come into position to start your cats and dogs. So you would measure your knee joints to be 1.5 fists width apart and make sure that the lower legs are flat on the floor going straight back. And now we're going to get into frog. So in the supine position, lying on your back, place the soles of your feet together and allow the knees to fall apart. So we're here for 2 minutes today. Breathe into your belly, relax your hips, and just let your knees settle. Naturally, you're going to have an arch in the low back. You should allow the arch to be there and allow your pelvis to relax here. So naturally you will notice that your pelvis will tilt forward and your low back will arch up off the floor. And those are the changes that we're looking for here in this position. So allow that to happen. And your arms should be 45 degrees to your body with your palms up. Your shoulders should be relaxed. And remember to keep breathing into your belly. Sometimes it helps to look and just double check to make sure that your feet are centered with your body. And when you do that, you might notice that you have one knee higher than the other. This means that you have one hip that's moving differently than the other hip. So you'll notice the knees settling more equally and symmetrically as you do this exercise and as you progress through the days and the weeks of this particular routine. Keep breathing into the belly, and you will feel a stretch along the inner thighs. We're going to stay here in this position for frog arm glides. Bring your elbow joint to a 90-degree angle and place your arms back to the floor. Glide your hands over your head and bring your arms back to 90 degrees. Focus on keeping your elbows, wrists, backs of your hands and fingers all in contact with the floor as you go through this range of motion. So take your time with these, and your priority here is to keep the elbow, wrist, and hands in contact with the floor the whole time. So if you feel like your elbows are coming off the floor, then you don't have to go all the way through the full range of motion. So do what you can, and gradually over time, your range of motion will improve. So your priority is to keep the elbow joints, wrists, and fingers flat to the floor. Now at the same time, just keep the belly relaxed, let the hips relax. You're still going to feel that stretch along the inner thigh. And what we're doing here is we're moving the scapula or the shoulder blade through a range of motion here. So those of you that have shoulder problems or tight upper backs, this will help you tremendously. Remember to breathe. Inhale and exhale. Take your time. You don't have to do all of the repetitions. The form is the most important thing. And now for downward facing dog. We're going to sync everything up here and leave the body in neutral. Start on your hands and knees. Pike your hips up and back. Use the hips as the driver here and pull back using the pelvis and the muscles of the hip. Often we push with our upper body in downward facing dog. If you're familiar with this exercise, you might have done this in yoga. Try to shift back to the pelvis, pulling up and back with the muscles of the pelvis. Relax your belly. We're holding this for a minute today. Breathe into the rib cage and belly. Tighten the thighs and bring the shoulder blades together and down the back. Allow your heels to come down into the floor, and this will usually be the last thing to happen. Keep pulling back with the hips and place an arch in the low back if you can. And finally for squat. Here we're going to reinforce the position of the upper back and head by activating the pelvis and legs in a squat position. Your feet should be pointed straight ahead with your feet hip width apart and your knees directly over your ankle joints. So your positioning here should be with your toes almost touching your pole or your door jamb, whatever you're using to hold on to. And place an arch in your low back. Relax your belly and breathe. So ideally your hip joint should be in a straight line with your knee. And if you're not able to get into that position with the hip in line with the knee, come down to the position that you can hold and hold it for as long as you can and follow your own progression here. Build up to getting into this position and holding it for a full minute as the month goes on. Now, things to remember. Elbow curls. Biggest mistakes are loose hands, wrists, and thumbs. You can see my thumbs were coming into my cheeks there. And another big mistake is having asymmetrical elbows. So be sure to touch the elbows evenly right in the center of your body. Keep your fingers tight and your thumbs away from your cheeks. So here's another big mistake. The elbows are coming down low. Be sure to keep the elbows up high. And you don't want to have any head movement like this front to back. Use a wall, stand up against a wall, that will help you. And if you don't have a wall, keep your head still. Now, assisted runner's stretch, here's the modification. So if your knees are bending, and if you can't get your knees straight, if you're tight, find a chair, come into the same kneeling position in front of your chair, That way you can straighten your knees and you can bring your back heel down to the floor. Cats and dogs, lower legs should not be coming up off the floor. The lower legs should be flat, ankle right in line with the knee. And another big mistake here on cats and dogs is moving front to back. So there should be no front to back movement here in cats and dogs. And finally, another mistake on cats and dogs is the elbows bend. The problem with that is that prevents the shoulder blade from moving properly. Frog. Biggest mistake here is when the feet are not centered with the midline of the body, like I'm showing you here. When you get into the frog position, start with your feet right in line with your body, with the middle of your body. And be sure to check your feet once you get into position, just to make sure that they are still centered. And the biggest mistake on the arm glides is the elbows lifting off the floor and the wrists lifting off the floor. So your priority here is to keep the elbows and wrists flat and to only go through the range of motion that you are able to go through functionally without having to lift those elbows and wrists. And finally, downward facing dog. So here's a little progression for you. The end goal is to get knees straight and back flat. So if you can't get both of those things going at the same time, start by bending the knees and getting the back flat first. Once you are able to obtain that position, then begin to straighten out the knees like I'm showing you here, but don't let the back curve. Keep the back flat and work towards straightening the knees and finally dropping the heels to the floor. Now remember, this is a progression that takes time, so be patient and work at it every single day. Congratulations on completing your daily posture workout. Post your questions to the Facebook community, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!